Hi everyone, Trina here. Today I'm going to be comparing and contrasting these two clays. This one is Creative Paperclay. It's a natural white modeling material. It is air dry. And this one is DOS modeling clay. And this is also air hardening. And yeah. This one's heavier than that one. I don't see how much is in here. But, so yeah, my idea is to make some items to be used in mixed media. And I thought that instead of buying a whole bunch of laser cut, what are they called? Yeah, chipboard pieces. Sorry about that. I am going to try out this clay.
That's a lot of clay.
If you hear little voices, I have my granddaughter here. Say hi, Hartley.
Hi.
Put your hand under. There we go.
Hi.
Alright, so my granddaughter is going to be here helping me out today with this. So first of all, let's go ahead and get these packages opened.
I mean, you already got one open.
I do. Now, so that you know, I'm not really a clay person. I don't really know what I'm doing. This is just an experiment because it's something I want to do, so I'm going to try it out. Alright.
I haven't used a lot of clay before.
I guess this had a little thing right there that I could seal this closed with. But I'm going to be cutting it, so I don't know how well that's going to work out. And sealing it with, I'll seal them both in cling wrap and then in baggies. So, I don't really have the appropriate tools for this, but we will start out with the Creative Paperclay and just kind of look at the consistency, and then we'll have a little hunk of DOS. Ooh, DOS is kind of harder to tear. There's that. Here you go, Hartley.
Thanks.
Before you do that, hold on, you have to pay attention to what you have to do. So, here are the two different clays. Alright, so first you have to take your clay and you have to knead it. Do one piece at a time. Just get it kneaded. Alright, so that feels kind of cool. And then this one, yeah, they both have like a very similar consistency, really, or they feel very similar. This is a little bit heavier or firmer, I guess, but not by much. This just feels spongier, I guess. The Creative Paperclay feels a little spongier than the DOS. Alright, so now I'm going to get a mold. Are you going to do the key mold, Hartley?
Yes.
So what you have to do is just tear off teeny tiny pieces and start with just one, and make sure you're using the same one. Okay?
Not the different.
And then press it in as much as you can, and try to press it in so that your back is flat. Okay? Alright. So yeah, she's working on a key mold. Can I see that mold for one moment? Real quick. So this is what she's working on, which is really super cute. Alright, so for comparison's sake, because I will come back after this is dry and look at them and see how they stack up to each other in terms of drying and all of that. So I'll do one of those wings with this clay, and then with the Creative Paperclay, and then I'm going to come over here to this other one and use the DOS clay.
I'm so bad at this.
Alright. It's okay. You're learning. Just put it in there, baby. You don't have to try to take it back out. It's okay. Just press it in. Now this does, the DOS clay does seem to be a little stickier. Like when I'm trying to press it down in here, it's trying to come back up with my fingers. I don't know if you guys are noticing that. Now maybe I'm supposed to be treating my fingers in some way. I don't know. Again, I really am not an expert at this. It's just, as I said, I want to make these things to be used for mixed media, and
This was meant for mixed media. Okay, guys?
And so I just decided to try this out. Anyway, so there's that one. And it, like I said, this one, the DOS is a little tackier. It's sticking to my fingers and so on.
Just like mine.
Sticking to your fingers too? Alright, and then I'll go ahead.
Look at my hand, everyone.
Alright, move it, babe. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and do this wing while I still have you guys with me with the DOS.
I'm
and
going to
then
upload this video.
after I do this one, I'll go back with the Creative Paperclay. Let's see if I can get this smunched in. Now I do have several different types of molds. Some of them I was a little disappointed when I got them. For example, this one. Look at it. It wasn't really what I thought it was going to be, but I'm going to try them anyway. I mean, I spent the money. I guess I could have sent it back, but look at that. It just rolls right up. Again, I'm probably doing something very wrong. I'm sure you guys will let me know in the comments. So there's that wing.
And also let me know in the comments too.
Yeah, let her know too. Anyway.
On my channel.
So here we go. Now we're going to go over to the Creative Paperclay and fill in this other wing.
Is this the Creative Paper?
I'm not sure which ones you are using. I think if I looked at it closely enough, I'd be able to tell this is the Creative Paperclay and that's the DOS. You can tell because the DOS is a little bit whiter. Just a little bit. And then the Creative Paperclay is more of a beigey color. Actually, the DOS looks a little more gray. Okay, so there is that. I will be adding more to this, but I'll do that off camera. One thing that I do want to go ahead and let you guys see is some of the different molds that I picked up. Again, I'm not so pleased with these, but I have them, so there it is. This one is very disturbing. I don't know how that's going to go.
My hands are starting to become white.
Yep. And then these frames. And then I have these textures, which I thought was really neat that I just got from Michael's. And so we're going to roll some clay out and try some of those. So I think I'll go ahead and do that on camera real quick while I have this clay out. Alright, we'll start with the Creative Paperclay, simply because I feel like it won't stick to the rolling pin as much as the DOS. Again, I have no clue what I'm doing here. Just reminding you and letting you know again. Alright, let me get a little bit more clay. Go ahead and knead it up a bit. Just so I get a pretty good impression. I guess I should have done that before I did that. And what is that? Looks like a blob of silicone or something. I don't know where the heck that came from.
Wait.
If it came out of the clay or off of one of those molds. I don't really know.
I think it came off one of the molds.
I guess I'll see when I go back through
Sorry, everyone.
this video. But anyway, alright. So let me get this kind of rolled out a little bit. Just
Can I
throw
have
it down
the
there.
rolling pin now?
Here's your rolling pin. Are you using the Creative Clay? Let me see it. Here, use this one first, babe. I think that's the
Really?
Creative Paperclay. Alright.
Both of them first.
Again, don't know what I'm doing. Get that silicone out of the way. And I'm using just like parchment paper here. Maybe I'm supposed to be doing something to keep it from sticking to this rolling pin. I'm sure, again, you guys will let me know, won't you?
And me too.
Because it's sticking a lot. You're doing a pretty good job there, Hartley, with yours. Good job.
I don't like it sticking.
Yeah, me neither. But, alright, so then I'll roll it over to the like flatter side and see if I can get the cleaner part of my rolling pin. And I'm just doing this because my understanding is that this can be cut pretty easily after it's dried. So, just roll that out a little bit more, and then I'm going to take just one of these textures, and I'm just going to smooch it down. Maybe I'll roll it down. Yeah, there we go. Roll it down. Roll it down. And roll it down. Alright, let me see.
Horrible.
So it's on there, I guess.
Mine's starting to become horrible.
Alright, babe. Why don't you just go back to filling up some more keys? How would that be?
Yeah.
And then I'll just do this. Alright, so I'm just going to take this one, and I think it's pressed down pretty well. And I'm just going to set that aside because I'm just going to let it dry. Just like that on there. And then let me get a little bit more of this DOS clay. Okay. Yeah, so I guess that is a little bit sticky-ish. But
I don't like it
I guess,
sticking to me.
Yeah, but that's kind of the way clay is.
Weird.
It feels weird?
Yeah, it feels weird.
Yeah. Alright, so let's just knead this up a little bit.
I want to actually do one too.
I don't know. I saw some people, I think, like adding water to it occasionally as they were working with it, as it started to dry and such. Maybe that was my imagination. I don't know. Anyway, here we go. Here we go.
I'm going to use a more gray one.
You're going to use the more gray one? That's the DOS.
Yeah, the more gray one
Alright.
is the DOS.
I'm not going to get the same amount necessarily, but let me see which one do I... Please?
Please.
I'm sorry. And then I'm going to take that and I'm going to roll it onto this one. Again, I don't really care about the shape. See? That pulled up. And I don't care about the shape or the size. I can cut it if I want to. But then again, mixed media, you don't necessarily want certain elements to be perfect.
Like I say, everyone, this is an ad for mixed media.
Hardly. It's not an ad for mixed media, baby. It's just we're making these to be used on our mixed media projects.
Oh,
all right.
Yeah.
So there
Sorry,
is...
everyone. This isn't an ad for mixed media.
All right, babe.
Everyone, I forgot.
All right, so that looks like it is starting to dry a little bit. That was pretty quick around the edges. So, all right, that is all I'm going to do for today on camera. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and finish filling my molds, and I will join back up with you guys after this is dry, and we will look at it and compare. Thanks for watching so far. Stick with me. Bye-bye. Hi, everyone. So, these have been drying now for about 12 hours, but I wanted to go ahead and pop some of them out, pop them out of their molds and stuff, because it occurs to me that even though the outside is drying nicely, the insides are still wet. So yeah, I guess I could have removed them when they were still wet, but anyway, so here I'm just pressing in on the center part to help loosen it up, and you can see that, I don't know if you can, but I can see the difference in the color. The Paperclay excuse me, the Creative Paperclay is still a little like cream colored or off-white, and the DOS is more white, gray color. So let me pop this one out so you can see it's not quite dry on some of those deeper areas. But yeah, it did pick up the shape relatively nicely, I guess. Let's see if we can do the same here with this little DOS one. Might be a little bit more of a challenge to get out. Let's see. And it is cracked. I don't know if you can see that crack there, and that might have just been from the way it was filled. I think this might have been one that my granddaughter was working on. But that's really cute. Gives it a, whoops, a vintage, come on, a vintage kind of vibe. So that's nice. That one looks like it's almost dry.
That one looks like it's broken.
So we'll pop this out. And you can see here the difference in the color that lets you know how it's still pretty damp on the inside. So I just did want to go ahead and pop these out and expose the inside to air. That one looks like it's practically dry. Might be a little of the high spots or the low spots that are still a little wet. So yeah. And then later on today when we come back, we'll check the consistency. You can see the wet spot there on that one. And wet spot here on this one. Again, it's been about 12 hours. And this is the last one. And this one is the Creative Paperclay. And those two are the DOS. That was bigger. So, seems to me they're drying equally well, I suppose. Alright. So that's just a couple of them. And then this one I cracked myself after I put it into the mold. As it was drying, I kind of pulled it apart accidentally. So that's on me, not the clay. And these are the molds that I did not like because I wasn't sure how well I was going to be able to get the clay in and then equally pull it out. But let's see. Oh, wow. I didn't do a bad job getting it in there. So, okay. I guess I don't hate this mold as much as I thought I did. Because that's a very nice 3D effect. Alright. But as you can see in that one, there's a lot of drying that still needs to happen. Oh, Hartley, did you pull all those out? Aw. Alright. So then this one was another one that I thought I would hate. And again, as I mentioned, when I was putting these in, I realized with the ragged edges and stuff, I'm going to have some cleanup to do here, maybe with a little bit of filing and such, but, you know, my first time, first experiment, wasn't too bad. Alright, you can definitely tell the difference in the colors, even, you know, still where they're wet, of what was the DOS and what was the Creative Paperclay. Alright. If you want to say hi, do it like this. Just wiggle your fingers.
Hi.
Alright, there you go. And don't put it so close to the camera. It got very blurry. Alright, and then pop this one out. And this one I cracked also on the outside. Let's see if it's cracked through and through. Oh, that's nice. That's sweet. Didn't completely crack all the way through. Anyway, so Hartley has pulled a whole bunch out. We'll just leave those over there on her craft mat to dry. And we'll leave these here to dry more. And I will check back in with you guys when they're completely dry. And we'll look at how they are once they're dried and how we can work with them. Alright, I'll talk to you in a bit.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, so we're back. It's been a few days, honestly, more than 24 hours. It's been about 4 days, I guess, since I started this compare and contrast of the DOS and the Creative. You guys will not have noticed any time lapse because it'll all be in the same video. But the most, I guess the greatest difference between the two in the drying process is the very noticeable warping. So this was done with the Creative Paperclay. And as you can see, I think you can see, there's a considerable amount of warping. Now this is the one that I did with the little sheets that I impressed that onto. Now if you compare that to the DOS, you can tell the difference because of the color. They also dry with a little bit of a different color. Excuse the sparkles all over this. These dried flatter. I'm not saying that there wasn't any lift or anything, but what a noticeable difference. Now, I don't mind that because if I'm going to be using it for mixed media, that's okay. But that, again, is probably the most noticeable difference. Are they flexible? This one's a little bit flexible. I imagine it'll crack if I do it too much. And then this one, I just even started to apply the smallest amount of pressure and it broke, which again, It's okay, because this is all about an experiment. Let's just see if that one was a fluke. Nope. The slightest amount of pressure. Look at that. It started to crack already. Alright, so this is more flexible. That one, just with even that amount of pressure, came apart. So in terms of flexibility, I'd say the Creative Paperclay is considerably more flexible. Well, not considerably more, but an ample amount more. Alright, now let's get into these two little frames here. The one on the right, in my right hand, is the Creative Paperclay, and then this one's the DOS. And I think in general, they dried up the same. I think I used a little bit more clay on that one, but not intentionally. But those, pretty close comparison. Now, when it comes to these wings that I did, this one is the DOS. Maybe it'll focus for me. And this one is the Creative Paperclay. So, if you'll notice, the lift, the warping, see the comparison between the two. And I feel like I used about the same amount of clay. I tried to fill them up pretty evenly. So, yeah, that's that. And it's even true on this other set of wings that I did. Excuse me. This one is the Creative Paperclay, and this is the DOS. And you see the lift. They both did lift a bit, but the Creative Paperclay lifted even more. I'm not going to try the flexibility test on those because I don't want them to be broken. This particular one was done with the Creative Paperclay, and it cracked in the mold on the back side as it was drying. So I don't know if I didn't have enough, enough clay or what the deal was, but it cracked. It started to crack in the mold, and then when I took it out, it came apart. Again, that's the Creative Paperclay. Now, if you look at the keys, these are both done with the Creative Paperclay, and you can see that they warped as well. And these keys broke, but I think these are the ones that my granddaughter did, and so she used several different pieces of clay and probably didn't get them in together very well. But this is the DOS clay, and really, even though they broke, there wasn't any lift. And maybe because it was broken, there was no lift, but the same is true of those. Again, I think it's the way that she put them into the mold. Now, the other comparison that I have is these two Flourishes. Now, just so you know, there was excess clay around this one. I just cut it off because I was testing something out, which you'll see here in a bit. And then this is the DOS. Again, lift, no lift. Maybe. So I guess the takeaway is that the Creative Paperclay does lift. And I took them out of the molds before they were completely dry. Some of them, depends on the size of them, but yeah. Now when it came to these little frames, I felt like I got similar results for the most part between the DOS and the Creative Paperclay. And perhaps part of that is, I mean, there was a little bit of warping. This is the Creative Paperclay. Come on, focus, thank you. And the DOS. But I think maybe the difference is in solid items compared to non-solid. You see how these have spaces and holes in them, so they responded a little differently. And then these Flourishes, they're different Flourishes, but they were in the same mold, and pretty much similar results from these. As far as like warping, I didn't feel like there was a lot of that going on in either one of those. So my takeaway is that if you're doing solid molds, fuller, that the Creative Paperclay isn't necessarily going to respond as well as the DOS, because again, you get that considerable lift during the drying process. However, for these, the difference is very, very, very noticeable. For these flat things, the DOS doesn't really warp for the most part. That does, however, the DOS is very fragile compared to the little bit of flexibility, and again, I say little bit of flexibility that you have with the Creative Paperclay. Now, what I do want to do is, because I left extra, and I did that intentionally, I just want to see if I can, and I know that I can because I already tried, how easily this will cut, so that if I want to come back and fussy cut these to get the excess clay off, how well that does. So, let's see. If I'm cutting these, and hopefully this is picking it up, maybe I'll just come closer if I can get it to focus on me here. Alright. So, can I do this without it breaking the actual image itself? Focus, thank you. And this is the DOS. Focus. So I feel like this does a pretty good job as far as allowing me to get in there and cut, and it not destroying the whole thing, like not completely breaking. So yeah, and I'm not so bothered, because if I'm going to be doing mixed media projects with these, I'm okay with that excess being there, because I can use paste or whatever to blend those in. But I just wanted you to see. Yeah, so there's the DOS. Now let's find a flourish that has the Creative Paperclay. Creative Paperclay. I didn't leave much on this one, but I did start cutting it. So I feel like that does a good job too of cutting. So again, I'm not being precise, but if I get it to focus again, and then let me cut around here. You just come down here and do it where it will be in focus. You won't get a very good close-up, but at the very least it will be in focus. And then of course, if I'm really fussy about it, I can go back along these edges with an emery board and just file it down, make it smoother. But I feel like they cut pretty much the same. However, let's try cutting this with my little fussy cutting scissors. Yeah, that's a little bit harder to get through, of course, and look what happened. Alright, can you see that that broke apart when I was cutting? Now let's try cutting a piece of this. Well, that was kind of my fault for snipping it at the very end, but it held up as I was going through until I got to that part where there's that. So I feel like, as far as like solid pieces, the the Creative Paperclay cuts better through than the DOS, because the DOS breaks. But yeah, there's my comparison in that respect. So I will be back shortly, and we will do a comparison of how well they take gesso and acrylic paint. Be right back. Okay, back, and I have these items arranged. Over here is the DOS, and over here is the Creative Paperclay. So, what I'm using today, I have this Finnabair white gesso, black gesso. They're both heavy. We're going to try those out. I also have a couple of cheap little acrylic paints that I got from Walmart, a black one and a white one. And just a couple of cheap paint brushes, nothing special. Alright, let me put my scissors away so I don't accidentally paint on them. Get this situated so I'm on camera, make sure. Alright, here we go. So I am using my tonic media mat, so I'm just going to pull my protective thing off of the side, and I'll use the palette, although you can't see it. I'll be doing the paints and stuff off to the side. So, put some white acrylic paint on there. You can put these directly onto this glass mat. Sorry about the noise in the background. My mom's decided to rustle around in the sink, which is nearby. Anyway, so we'll start off with our acrylic paints. So, just going to get some white acrylic paint, and let's just start off with the wings. Alright, start off with these wings. Just want to see how well it takes it, if there's any resistance, if it seems to sink in or what. So, there's that wing with the white acrylic paint. And then here's this wing with white acrylic paint. Alright. So, there are those. We'll just set those up there for now. Let them dry as we're moving along. This acrylic paint should dry rather quickly. I'm just going to do this to get the paint off. Ooh, hey, there was some color in there from previous. I guess we didn't get that cleaned out very well. Pretty. Anyway, that's probably not good. But we're using black next, so hopefully it'll be okay. And then we'll do these two little items. Again, over here is the Creative Paperclay, and here's the DOS. And we'll move to black acrylic paint. And I chose these brushes specifically because they're not great, because I need to do this with them, smooch them down to get into the detail. I just want to see if there's any transfer of chalkiness from the clay, or if it's pretty much, you know, done and set. Get more in there to get into those spaces. Alright, and try to get it out. So there's the DOS. And now we'll go over to the Creative. And I believe these are the same. The mold had three frames exactly the same in it, I believe. Alright. Don't really notice a difference in terms of the way that the color goes on or anything like that. Did kind of fall into those holes on this a little bit easier. I don't know if that's because of the flow of the substrate, or if it's just me. Could be just me. So, there is that. So we'll just set that there. And, and next I'm going to take some of this black gesso, as I mentioned, and just put a dab out on my mat. And, made a little bit of a mess, and I don't want to leave that. It's like those people who use the ketchup and just, yeah. Anyway, there's that. Let me get that cleaned. Lid put back on. And then, let me get some white out. Just a dab of white. Alright. I guess I should hold it like this if I'm going to do that. And make a mess. Yeah. Get out of here. Alright. Got my white cleaned off. And I'm going to get this bigger brush. I think what I want to do is these, and I realize they're not the same size pieces, but yeah. So we'll just take some white gesso. Now again, this is heavy body gesso, so it'll take a little bit of doing to get that to spread out over the piece. And this is the DOS piece that I'm working on. Hope I wasn't off camera too much there. Move that out of my way and scoop that up a little bit, because I am going to need some more of that white gesso. Thought I had enough, but apparently I didn't. Alright. Got some more. Here we go. Try to make sure I fill in the little details there, because I will use this for something at some point. So if I'm going to cover it, make sure I get it covered. Get that little brush hair out of there. Alright. More brush hairs in there. Yeah, cheap brushes. That's why I didn't mind using it for this experiment so much. Alright, there's that one. And then this. Okay, if I'm being honest, I feel like the Creative Paperclay does allow for this to spread more easily. Minus the hair that you see there. So, yeah, that heavy body gesso really did spread nicely on the Creative Clay. Creative Paperclay. Yeah. So, there's that. Worry about those hairs later, or not, because they'll probably get covered with color anyway. Oops, I accidentally touched the black paint. Ignore that. Alright, so there's that. And now, next, just try to get some of that off. Some of the hairs out. And then, let's go to the frames. Okay, and now we're going to switch over to the black. Starting off with the DOS. And of course there's going to be white mixed in there because I left the white on the brush. Okay. It's going on okay. Alright. I realize I'm missing some spots, but that's okay for this demonstration. It's alright. Okay, there's that. And then we'll switch over to this one. Now I realize this isn't necessarily as delicate, but we'll just give it a try. And this is the Creative Paperclay. Again, I do feel like I'm running out. I'll get a little bit more on my mat over here, but I do feel like this is going a little more smoothly than on the DOS. Is it my imagination? I don't know. I really do feel like it did a better job there. Alright, I want to compare this some more, so let's set that over there, and let's turn this around so I have a little bit of a cleaner area down here. Let's do these flourishes and these wings. Alright, so this is the DOS wing. That's going on very smoothly actually on the wing. So that's alright. Yep, just going with the grain, so to speak. Although you wouldn't think wings have grain, but yeah. And then the Creative Paperclay. Yep, they seem pretty even in terms of the way that the gesso is going down on them. Alright, there's that. And then my flourishes. I really want to switch back to some white. Let me see if I can grab another paintbrush real quick out of here. This is a Martha Stewart paintbrush that might be okay. I don't know. Alright, pick up some Yeah, let's pick up some white gesso with our black fingers. Yay. And that's going on pretty smoothly. Yep, it's going on pretty smoothly on the DOS. So yeah, that was alright. And then on the Creative Paperclay, I'm down to a very minimal amount on there. So, on my palette over here. So yeah, seems to be going alright. Let's turn this around, get the other side. Yep. Sorry about the noise earlier, guys. My mom, for some reason, has this radar built in, and she always feels like she needs to do dishes when I'm filming, for some reason. I mean, I'm grateful and all, don't get me wrong. But, I mean, it was my intention to do the dishes, but I don't know, maybe it's her subtle way of getting on camera. I don't know. Anyway, there we go. There are the applications of gesso and acrylic paint onto these items. And then, I guess, the only thing is to let them dry. Although as these are drying, I don't know if you can tell, looks like it's drying a little bit faster on my Creative Paperclay. Again, maybe I put more over here, and this has more open area also. But this gesso is white, and I still see the difference in the color coming through. I don't know if you guys can see that. Of course you can't with the black, and can't really compare this one because, yeah, that was the one where I discovered some pink in the brush. Sorry about that. But they're both drying pretty quickly. All of them are. About the same rate. So, yeah, I mean, I don't see a whole lot of difference between the two clays, with the couple of things that I pointed out, which is the DOS Paperclay seems more brittle, whereas the DOS seems more brittle, whereas the Creative Paperclay is a little more flexible. Let's see if I'm doing that. And the Creative Paperclay kind of popped up in the drying process, whereas the DOS remained relatively flat. And then when it came to cutting, when I was cutting through, I was able to cut quite a ways before that broke off. Of course, it broke off in a groove of the pattern, whereas this one just started to crumble when I was cutting it, like the other side broke in half. And yeah, and of course, with the flexibility test, this one just broke so easily. And even though it was like a little bit thicker, I guess. Anyway, so that is that. Excuse me, I made a mess all over myself because that's how I do. But anyway, I don't know if this was helpful to anyone, but I hope it was, because like I said at the very beginning of this, I'm brand new to using clay, so I don't really know what I'm doing. If you guys have any suggestions for me to help out with the curling up or anything like that, because again, maybe I'm using the medium wrong, please leave comments down below with your suggestions as to how this can be done better in terms of, you know, avoiding the warping and the curling and the fragility or whatever. Any helpful hints I'll be appreciative of. So I hope that those of you who are also new, like I am, might have learned a little bit of something. Anyway, thanks so much. I appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, please check out some other videos on my channels. I do a variety of things. If you like what you see, please consider subscribing. Also, make sure you click on that bell, and then when the little drop down comes up, choose all if you'd like to get all the notifications to see upcoming videos. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate your time. Bye!